Greetings, Starfighters, and welcome to Shameless Cashgrab Second Opinions. I'm Morgan,
And I'm Robin.
formerly of Geek of All Trades.
And we're here to add our 2 cents worth on the films Arkle rated as best of set for the first 6 seasons.
Number 1! The Killing Machine!
It's a competently made direct-to-DVD actioner from the late 2000s, early 2010s. Better than most of its compatriots, as anyone who's watched Bad Movie Beatdown regularly could probably tell you. Props for having actual moments of subtlety in it. Props to Dolph Lundgren, who made his directorial debut with this one, which makes it a little more notable, for acknowledging that he's not 20 years younger than he actually was when he was filming it. Other than that, though, I got nothing particularly bad to say about it, but nothing particularly great to say about it either. Again, apart from it being better than average for most of that type of film. I wouldn't say no to watching it again, which is more than I could probably say for the other 3 movies in this list, but it's not something I'm going to go out of my way to do. Still, if you like Dolph Lundgren, you'll probably like this movie. It's not going to be your favorite of his, but I think you'll enjoy it.
So now we're reviewing the his top choice from Season 4, The Killing Machine. Season 4, The Action Collection. The movie is The Killing Machine. And Arkle liked this one. He didn't think any of them were good. I think I actually liked it best of all 3 of us, myself personally.
Well, it was not a bad movie, and as I have on my notes here, when you're starting from the premise of aging action star directing himself in an action movie, the first thought is, oh my dear God, no. And this was actually, this was pretty good for given that it came into it with a really low bar.
Yeah, and it was by no means perfect, but I was kind of shocked at how good the movie was overall and how really good some of the sequences were.
Yeah. We've talked about, and Arkle will talk about the technical issues with the film, and my first reaction on this one was, yay, we have subtitles!
Yeah.
Because so many of these sets don't. This set in particular, and in the other sets, often you have 3 or 4 movies on a disc, and this one looks like they literally took the discs for each movie that had been packaged separately, put them in little the envelopes, with the clear where you can see them, and then put the 4 envelopes in the case. So these were clearly meant to be packaged separately originally, right. And then they just threw 4 of them together. So I think that's why we actually had chapter select and subtitles and the things that have come to be, when you watch a DVD, you expect these things.
Yeah. I think there was even one special feature on this one.
Yeah, I think there was. Yeah. There were trailers for other movies. I
think besides that, because that's not a special feature. They just try to stick on, adjacent to this complete breakfast.
Yeah. Well, in the early days of DVDs, subtitles and chapter select were often put on the case as special features. Yeah. So there is that.
Yeah. And before I realized that this was a late career Dolph Lundgren, because he definitely tries to not look too old, but the opening sequence has this 80s music, and it's good 80s music. So this is an 80s Dolph Lundgren action movie, right? Nope, 2010. So that's why he looks so old,
Yeah, but it kind of has that 80s vibe.
Yeah.
I think it did a good balance of picking up the 80s action movie vibe without trying to pretend that he was 20 years younger.
Yeah.
This is a
or
guy...
Or that it was the 80s.
Yeah, this is a guy who's... people are using their cell phones and stuff, so...
Remember Blackberries?
Yeah. But that's this is a guy who's clearly been around. He's got mileage on him.
Yeah. And it's important to the plot.
Yeah. Hello, kitty.
He was married for a while.
Have a kitty.
He's got a daughter with the first wife, and the woman he's with now. It's not, oh look, it's this actor trying to pretend he's 20 years younger. It's the character trying to pretend he's 20 years younger, and the woman is clearly a surprisingly sympathetic and fully realized character.
Yeah.
I want to note that she does get killed about halfway through the film.
But a lot of people
Yeah.
are getting killed
Yeah.
at that point.
Because that's
and
my point.
It was not gratuitous.
Yeah.
It never even occurred to me to think that might have been fridging.
Yeah, and
because-
that's what I wanted to say. This one does not feel like fridging, and it feels like an important point to make.
Yeah.
That when a female character is killed as part of the story, it doesn't have to be fridging if you do it right. She's a real person who's important in different ways. She actually has an effect on the plot outside of her relationship. Well, okay, it is because of her relationship with the protagonist. I'm certainly not going to call him the hero. But, she is dying in a sequence where lots of people who are attached to this guy are being killed. Male, female, doesn't matter. They're wiping the slate clean. Which really brings me to my main point is that it's an action movie. So what matters? The action. You do have to have a plot to string this stuff together, or it's just like a really long music video. But most of the action scenes are pretty well put together.
Yeah.
The opening sequence where he's performing the hit that gets him into this whole mess. He runs into some trouble, but it's interesting the amount of professionalism in most of the sequences. There are a couple of stupid mistakes that are clearly there for the plot, but in most cases, and this is a big deal for me, the professionals are acting in professional ways. When someone is outdone, it's because they were being good and the other person was being better.
And one of the notes here, there's an ambush that it's a really well set up ambush. He's driving along. I think he's heading for an airport.
Yes.
And there's a highway crew out at night. And, well, highway crews go out and work at night because that's when you're going to disrupt traffic the least. So he's driving along and you see this highway crew, and I didn't think anything of it, and he slows down for this. And I don't know, did you pick up that it was an ambush just before?
I thought it was a little suspicious because it almost seemed like they were just getting him off the road, and he probably would have picked up on it sooner. You mentioned this. He was on the phone trying to explain the situation to his ex. Distracted.
Because he was talking to her because at this point he knew they were out for his family. So he's
No,
or
he didn't. He was trying to explain.
Oh, no,
he was off to do another mission.
Oh, that's right.
And he's trying to sell it to her.
Oh, that's right.
as-
That's the one where it was his weekend to have the kid.
Yeah.
And he had already taken this other job, so he had left the kid with his girlfriend and the kid's nanny, I think, was supposed to be there. So he's on the phone with his ex, and it's like, yeah, everything's fine. And she's like, why does it sound like you're in the car?
Yeah.
So he's basically trying to
BS her.
To cover for her while he's driving. You're not supposed to be talking on the phone while you're driving anyway.
Yeah.
This was before hands-free seats and things like that.
Yeah. And he's an assassin, so
And so he's not paying a lot of attention to this road work, which there was nothing remarkable about the road work until they all pull out their guns and start shooting at him.
They're automatic rifles.
Yeah, and
they did not mess around with this dude.
No, the highway ambush was very well set up. Yeah. They were smart. They failed because the protagonist was also smart and he was smarter.
Yeah. This
his
ambush
his smarts overrode their smarts,
and only by a little bit.
And
this was the highlight action sequence for me because it was so well done. It was like this flawless little stopwatch of gears and levers and springs and everything where they do something and he reacts just in time. Basically, he's sitting there. It's like
that's the lifetime of reflexes was the only reason he walked away from that.
Right, because he pulls up and okay, I was pulled off the road, but there's this construction vehicle in the way. What's wrong with? And they don't give him any time. They all whip out their automatic rifles and fill that windshield full of lead. And he ducks just in time, and he rolls out, and they start chasing him down, and they try to make sure he's dead. He gets one of them from under the car. The next guy immediately sprays under the car. He's jumped up to the top of the car. It's this almost this balletic in terms of design, because he's an old guy. He moves like a guy who's still in really good shape in his 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
But the
somebody
sequence,
who has spent his whole life staying in good shape because he needs to for his career.
They even show a little of that in him working out, and that's also just from a plot standpoint. It's well done. Basically, they do the flashback thing, some of the flashback stuff, which is much more compressed than Last Man on Earth, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But they show this flashback stuff as he's working out to do that. Going back to season 1, show don't tell done properly.
Yeah.
This is why he's still in good shape.
Because it's clear that this is stuff that he's ruminating about while he's working the bag.
Yeah. And while that highway ambush is the highlight in terms of how of set pieces that are well done, there are several good sequences.
One of the things that I made note on this movie, there is a character, I can't remember her first name, her last name is Care.
Yeah.
And I made a note of that here. He goes to talk to, I'm not quite sure exactly, I guess she's a fixer, she's not a boss.
I think she's a crime boss, but like a local crime boss.
Yeah.
Because she's got that high rise that she's got her people working
That's
on.
true. And I'm like, hey, they've got a woman in this position of responsibility, and she's sitting there with two beautiful women, and it's like, okay, ladies, I need to, this is business, go run along. And I'm like, that's really cool. And then I found out, Roland read the Wikipedia page on this, that role was written for a man. And they put a woman in the role and didn't rewrite it. Mm-hmm. So she...
and she is a legitimate badass.
Yeah,
and she seems like she's on his side until...
It's a well-written character, and the fact that they basically took this solid character and put a woman in the role, I thought that's props to everyone involved for making that choice.
Yeah. Now, important note, movie's not perfect. I mean, it's still Dolph Lundgren. He's an excellent action star, even into 2010, but while his acting is decent, English is still clearly not his first language. I mean, people are calling him an Eddie. It's like, how did you not realize that he was... I mean, maybe his cover was that he was from an Eastern European country and moved... That wasn't Russia.
Yeah.
But his accent is really thick.
Yeah, you could still tell that this man did not grow up speaking English.
It's one of the reasons we really appreciated the subtitles. Would have been hard to understand what he was saying sometimes.
Yeah. He got a little too artsy in the direction. There were several sequences where there's this choppy slow-mo, and it was really more annoying than anything else.
I mean, there were a couple of places...
I think it was trying to be artsy.
Yeah. When there's a couple of places where they use it well, where he's losing consciousness. But all the other places, it's just annoying.
Frankly, the first couple of times it happened, I thought that it was a problem with the video playback.
Yeah, we thought...
I think one of the first few times it happened, I actually ran the video back because I thought that it had stuttered. Yeah,
it was not... points for trying, but it didn't succeed. And that's the sort of thing that should be fixed in editing. It's like, maybe he insisted on it, and some editor was telling him, Mr. Lundgren, this isn't working. There's a couple of sequences where we can keep it, but you should really ditch most of this stuff. Now,
no, I like it. It's working. We keep it.
Yeah. Or maybe maybe it's the other way around. Who knows? He was thinking that he needed to turn it down, and some editor who was trying to be... He hired someone to be...
Or a producer or something. I don't know.
Because... there are places where it works.
But it's edgy.
Because there's the flashback sequences before we get the full story. It's meant to be this choppy, dreamlike thing before we get the full what happened in that moment that changed his life.
When a dream sequence, or when a sequence where he's
about to lose consciousness.
Yeah, when he's taken a blow to the head or something. That makes sense, but there were other times when it didn't really need to be there.
It was just, why are you doing this? And then when we watched why were you doing this then? Why are you doing this now? You shouldn't be doing this. And then, there are moments when characters are stupid to serve the plot, and it's an action movie.
Simple fact is, sometimes people do stupid things.
Yes, it's just people who had been... it stands out in this film because of how professional everyone is the rest of the time. When you're walking into the place... alone, when you're pretty sure it's a trap. Of course, at this point, he doesn't think he's going to get out anyway, but there were times when it could have been handled differently, given how smart the character
when
did.
The laymen are doing things like going, check your corners, damn it!
Yeah. And that's what kind of makes the difference between this one and Last Man on Earth, where Vincent Price is clearly... he's been alone for 3 years, Now, it's not like Dolph Lundgren's character, Eddie...
It's the mileage.
Yeah, it's not like Eddie hasn't been through the ringer at this point, but it's the professionalism to WTFism ratio.
And he is being put through the ringer here because somebody is basically not just trying to wipe out him as a loose end, but breaking the rules in terms of going after girlfriend, going after kid. He's worried for his daughter. He's worried for his girlfriend. He's worried for his ex, who he clearly still cares about. Yeah. And I'd say it's a happy ending.
Yeah. I mean, they do have this weird twist at the end that someone was hoping this would have sequels, but, well...
Yeah, but it's
I don't think it ruined
not the
it
kind
like
of,
some reviewers did. Not Arkle, but some reviewers thought it ruined it.
Yeah, it's not the kind of sequel bait that leaves you feeling unfinished.
Right.
It's, the story has an end.
Yeah.
And you could pick it up and continue it from there, but you don't have to.
Right. Yeah, I do want to say this about the ultimate villain, though. You do eventually see the thread backwards, but the final villain should have had more of a presence in the rest of the film, because it's like he's being hunted down, and you think KGB or what, and then it's like, oh, it's this other guy, and there is a tie there, but you don't get to know that character until the last 15 minutes of the film.
Yeah, and even then, there's okay. Wait a minute. If he feels this way, why is he doing this? But if he feels that way, why is he doing that?
Right.
And it's just...
That's another one of those professionalism moments. You just sort of had the character killed.
There's stuff at the end of the film where I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Did I miss something?
Right. Because it's just... how characters die and don't die just don't make sense in the context of what the villain has done up until that point and what he does in the final sequence.
Yeah, although I did like... I think you mentioned early on that we might get what's the term? An Androcles moment.
Oh, the Androcles line, because that pays off,
and they did pay off on that.
Yeah, that was a really nice way to wrap that up.
That was nice writing that came around.
Yeah, because basically he does something decent at the beginning, and it basically causes the whole rest of the film to happen. But then at the end,
and you can tell by the voiceovers is that he's thinking, I did this one decent thing, but I screwed up and I made a mistake, and now I'm paying for it.
Yeah, but then, well, the decency does kind of pay off in the end,
which allows him to have the aforementioned happy-ish ending.
Right. And I'm really glad that Kara didn't turn out to be the final villain. I mean, she's a complicated character, and she's not really heroic, and she's got her own interests, and she gets sucked into this whole thing.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have made sense for her to be the final villain. But the problem is that the villain didn't have an equal role to Kara up until then. So,
yeah.
But overall, a decent film. I mean, the action was really good, great in a couple of sequences. The plot and the characterization and the acting were surprisingly good for most of the film.
I think the only people I would actually recommend this film to are Dolph Lundgren fans, and they've probably seen it already anyway.
Right. Unless you want to have to look at some of the action sequences as an aspiring action writer or director or something.
Yeah,
but that's it.
From the technical point of view, I think this is a movie that could be used in a filmmaking class for these are things they did right and these are things they didn't do so right.
Yeah. I don't regret watching it, but it's also I could have lived my life without watching this film.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I was definitely taking notes as a writer with those action sequences.
And that's our second opinion on The Killing Machine.
The Killing Machine! Greetings, Starfighters. Robin here again to make a shameless book plug for Discami Publishing's Absolute Power, a modern superhero tabletop RPG supporting adventures across the entire power level spectrum. I'm happy to be the lead writer on this sequel to Silver Age Sentinels, with mighty Mark McKinnon presenting the most robust version of Tristat's 4th edition to date. The Kickstarter for Absolute Power launches on February 8th. The link is in the show notes. Please look forward to it!